Hello and welcome to the podcast Experience, an initiative of UFPR, our university's innovation ecosystem. This episode is part of the Innovation and Energy series, recorded live at COBEM 2025, whose theme is Artificial Intelligence for a Sustainable Future. Today, we'll explore how nature teaches engineering to move heat smarter. Our guest is Professor Sylvie Lorente. Correct?
Correct.
William M. Brown Endowed Chair in Mechanical Engineering at Villanova University and a leading voice on hierarchical flow architectures. The three-leg networks that living systems use to carry blood, sap, and air efficiently. Her work shows that when we design cooling and heating paths, like branches and capillarities, systems run cooler, quieter, and with less energy. In this conversation, we'll keep it vivid and practical. Let's start with a simple picture. If you drew the best cooling system for a battery or a processor, why would it look more like a tree or a set of veins than a straight pipe?
Well, first of all, hello, Anna. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be here with you and discuss a little bit about research and the importance of research in our real life and very real applications. So cooling systems are needed everywhere. And from experience, we have discovered that those systems are more efficient when we are capable of designing them in a way that mimics branches or the tree leaves, because it's the best way of using a fixed amount of material to bring the heat from one point to another one.
Incredible. Thank you so much. We'll have some questions. I do the question, she's answering, and it will be very nice. Let's go. In everyday terms, what does it mean to design cooling and heating pathways like tree branches? Why do these branching layouts move heat so much better than straight lines?
So it's not that much about comparing a straight line to a dendrite, if you will. It's simply that when you use a straight line, you don't have any design opportunity. There is no way of changing the drawing to make it more efficient. Now, if you have something that looks like a Y, it's a Y-shaped, you have much more opportunities to make your system more efficient. You can play with the angle of bifurcation, you can play with the length of the channels, you can play with the diameter of the channel. So for the same amount of material, you have an infinite number of possibilities, an infinite number of drawings, and you as an engineer are going to select the one which is the most efficient.
Incredible, incredible. I'm learning with you already. Okay, so we're going back to question number 2.
Let's go.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Let's go. So, could you share a simple real-world example, say keeping a laptop or battery data center cool, where this nature-inspired design clearly beats a traditional approach?
Absolutely. I will take the example of data centers, which are generating more and more power, requiring more and more thermal management, because the higher the power, the more heat being generated, and the higher the cooling needs. The traditional methods are not working well enough today. Air cooling or liquid cooling are not working well. So we are developing single-phase cooling solution, meaning that we absorb this, the system is absorbing the heat by boiling the coolant, okay? And the best way to do this is to provide certain types of configurations. And what we saw in our work is that the configurations that look like the branches of the tree will require less pumping power and will absorb more heat compared to traditional ones.
Okay, thank you. Let's go talk about artificial intelligence and AI for a sustainable future, okay? Where does AI actually help in thermal design e.g., testing many shapes fast, spotting hot spots, or predicting when cooling will fail. A visual example we can picture.
Sure. There is not a single example where AI is useful here. Because AI is useful if you are capable of training a model. You develop a model which will need a lot of data to learn how to spot the high temperatures somewhere, how to spot a defect. So you need a huge amount of data to train your model. This is completely useless in thermal management today. There is no need of AI.
Yeah, we are in an event to talk about AI.
I know.
And it's so important that we have you to tell the truth about our nature, because
But I think that
nature,
there are lots of domains where AI can be useful. AI can be useful in the domains where data are already available. So in material sciences, for example, in medicine, for example. But if you do not have well-trained and educated people to look with distance the results provided by AI, you're going to believe any AI hallucination as a result that is true, and it's not working. So you need a lot of critical thinking, which means well-educated people.
Yes, amazing, Professor. Since AI also uses energy, do you have a rule of thumb for when running AI to optimize a cooling network saves more energy than it consumes?
Okay, so right now, we know for sure that only a lot of power is needed in the data centers to work with AI, but also a huge amount of water, okay? And we are hearing that that's for today, but in the very near future, the situation will be way better because the algorithm will be more efficient, which is true. I believe this is true. But it doesn't mean that less energy will be consumed, and it does not mean that less water will be consumed. Because those systems are going to become more efficient, yes, but we will have more and more users, and we will have more and more usages. So the total amount that will be requested will remain the same and will continue to increase, which makes two issues. Number one, well, the very first question is, who is going to pay the bill? You build data centers everywhere, and they drain power from the grid. Who is paying? Who is paying for that? Well, you are paying, I'm sorry, you are paying, right? Same with the water. If water is preferentially directed to power, to help the data centers to maintain a certain thermal level, that's as much less water that you are going to have access to. So those are, in my opinion, societal questions, and technology should not be the driver here.
Okay, thank you. Let's go for innovation, startups, and ecosystems.
Good.
For founders listening in, where are the clearest entry points? Passive cooling for electronics, battery thermal plates for EVs, or modular heat exchangers for buildings? What would you choose as a first pilot?
I would go to any technology which is capable of adding to the energy mix. I think that electrification is key to decrease our carbon footprint. More electrification means more ways of generating it. And to move away from fossil fuel, I don't think that there is one single solution. Well, Brazil is hosting the COP right now in Belém, right?
Yes.
So that's truly the day to discuss those things.
Yes.
So we need solutions as a mix. It's not of being 100% solar or wind, or hydro. It's truly find the right combination, which can work only if we also are capable of adding storage solutions to this. And there are avenues of opportunities for innovation there.
Yes. And we hope that they use this innovation.
They will, of course they will.
What usually blocks adoption? Materials, reliability, manufacturing? 2 practical tips to get from lab prototype to a product's customers trust.
Well, I think that in academia we are very good at producing at lab level. What we miss is so that's a low TRL, the technical readiness level. So we are at low TRL 2 or 3. Now to go to market, you need to scale up to TRL 6, and in between there is this huge gap that you can fill only if you have financial support, because you need to build a proof of concept. So either you have some government agencies funding those ideas, or you find investors, and it depends really on the economy and on the economical configuration of the country. I don't know much about Brazil. Okay. But what is missing is, in my opinion, being myself involved in this domain, what I see is that beyond my ideas and my lab level findings, there is an investment which is needed to push the innovation to market, so that you increase your TRL and then you're ready to develop, I don't know, the market study and everything, but that's another job. That's also something super important. Professors don't know everything and they need to be fully aware of it. Okay. Creating a company is a different job. Some of us are entrepreneurs, and that's very good, but not all of us, far from it.
Okay. A lot of things to think about, right?
Food for thought.
Let's go to our last question.
Okay.
Let's go. If a city wanted cooler buildings and lower bills, what simple upgrades should come first? Better heat pathways, phase change materials, smarter airflow. What benefits would people notice soonest? Comfort, noise, energy use?
I think that there is a lot to learn by looking at how people were building in the past. They didn't have air conditioning. Well, they didn't have also climate change, but nevertheless, they were capable of using the right materials in the right way, capable of building for thermal inertia, so that let's say that the indoor becomes hot at the end of the day, right when the outdoor temperature is going down. That's the principle of using thermal inertia, and that works if you're using the right materials. People knew how to do this in the past. There is an entire branch of architecture which is called bioclimatic architecture, and I'm a strong believer in the power of this way of considering the problem. Yeah. Forget about air conditioning.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Professor Sylvia. It's amazing the way that you spoke to me, because the idea here is really to talk to general people.
Absolutely.
And you really gave us a class. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you for having
so
me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Ana. Thanks a lot.
Quer que eu faça o texto final aqui Tá. Então, I will just say the last for the podcast, okay? But you don't have to worry, okay?
Perfect.
On behalf of Inove UFPR's team, our sincere thanks to you, Professor Sylvia, for this timely conversation.
Thank
you. If you'd like to deep dive into innovation and technology, check out UFPR's postgraduate specialization in renewable energies and energy efficiency, 100% live online, taught by leading PhD faculty. The program offers dual certifications. Beyond the specialization, you also earn an innovation certificate through the Startup Experience methodology, exclusive to UFPR Innovation and Ecosystem Hub. It's hands-on innovation. You finish with a design, startup, and a publication in innovation and technology. Boost your career and join our innovation ecosystem. Find the enrollment link and contact in this post feeds on an Instagram @energia.ufpr. Thanks for listening, and we see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. Can I have